Hello, this presentation will cover the use of USDA foods during a disaster. Here you will find the definitions of key terms used in this presentation. Being prepared to respond and recover from a disaster, crisis, or other emergency situation means having ready access to an up-to-date emergency contact list and knowing what to do in the event of a disaster. An emergency contact list should be up to date with all individuals, agencies, and organizations who would be involved in responding to a disaster situation. For recipient agencies, this may include subrecipient agencies, distributors, or warehouses. The list should also include emergency support function coordinators, regional office disaster coordinators, and other federal, state, or local officials involved in food distribution programs during an emergency. During emergencies, the Federal Emergency Management Agency Emergency Support Function 6 Mass Care Coordinator connects with their United States Department of Agriculture Food and Nutrition Service Regional Office. The Food and Nutrition Service provides disaster assistance in three ways: congregate feeding, household distribution, or DSNAP. Congregate feeding may occur when large numbers of people are forced out of their homes due to an emergency. For example, when a power or gas services are not available. In these scenarios, locations are provided to shelter and feed people. Common congregate feeding sites include schools, churches, community centers, mobile kitchens, and soup kitchens. USDA foods can be used at congregate feeding sites. In situations of distress, the state distributing agency can release USDA foods and provide assistance for up to 30 days. To provide assistance for more than 30 days, approval from USDA's Food and Nutrition Service is required. In situations when people are sheltering in place or commercial channels of food of the supply chain are disrupted, making DSNAP benefits impractical, USDA foods may be given directly to households with approval from the Food and Nutrition Service. In situations in which the President declares a disaster declaration, Short-Term Disaster Supplemental Nutrition Program, DSNAP, benefits may be provided to disaster survivors to be used to purchase foods in grocery stores. It is important to note that a household cannot receive both DSNAP and disaster household foods at the same time. Steps must be put in place to prevent households from participating in both programs by collecting and maintaining household information as part of the application process. The USDA Food and Nutrition Service authority to provide assistance through congregate feeding and household distribution exists under two instances. First, a presidential declaration of disaster per the Robert T. Stafford Disaster Relief and Emergency Assistance Act, and two, a situation of distress per Code of Federal Regulations, Title VII, Parts 250.69 and 250.70. If the President approves a state's request and issues a disaster declaration, then the state has the authority to release USDA foods inventory to disaster relief agencies to feed survivors at shelters and other mass feeding sites. Although state distributing agencies have the authority to use a USDA foods from any food distribution program listed here, child nutrition programs are the preferred inventory for responding to requests for supplemental food support in disasters for congregate feeding. USDA foods for child nutrition programs are size appropriate for feeding large groups. USDA foods and child nutrition programs include direct delivery and processed USDA foods, as well as fresh fruits and vegetables from the Department of Defense. Note that participation in both a regular distribution program and a disaster assistance program is allowable. However, as stated earlier, disaster survivors may not participate in two disaster programs, for example, DSNAP and household distribution, simultaneously. In the event USDA foods are used during a presidential declaration, Food and Nutrition Service, at the request of the state distributing agency, will provide replacement or entitlement reimbursement. USDA foods used during the situation of distress may be replaced or reimbursed by the Food and Nutrition Service if funds are available. There may be other foods a recipient agency uses during a disaster. When recipient agencies are asked to volunteer and donate non-USDA food, they will need to file a claim with FEMA to recoup the cost of the commercial foods. Recipient agencies can contract themselves out to disaster relief organizations to provide meals at a meal rate that subtracts the value of USDA foods out of the price. A record of USDA foods used should be submitted to the SFA to file a summary report. When commercial or USDA foods spoil due to power outages, recipient agencies need to file an insurance claim for the loss and dispose of spoiled food properly. Here you will find a list of disaster-related legislation and memos, as well as a link to the USDA Foods Program Disaster Manual. Thank you.